Welcome back. Joining me now in the studio is Steve Baer, a candidate for the Ward 3 Hilton Head Island Town Council seat. He's one of 5 residents running for the position vacated by Mayor Drew Laughlin. The Lowcountry Report has invited each candidate to be a guest on the show, and we are asking them the same questions. Steve, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Angela. You're welcome.
Now, you have a history of public service. What made you want to leave your spot in the County Council to serve Hilton Head?
Well, I've got slightly over 4 years on Beaufort County Council, and in looking at Hilton Head, where I live, I see there's about 15 major issues that have come up that I think I could be very useful on with my engineering and planning and economic experience and local government experience with the county. This seat opened up after I won the previous election, and it's sort of a one-time opportunity to use my expertise focusing on local problems.
I understand that. Now, the airport is one of those problems that's been making headlines for the last number of years, actually. What's your position on extending the runway?
Actually, if you look at the history, the airport has been making headlines for about 30 years now, and all the same cast of characters are involved. I was very active in reading the master plan and analyzing it, and as a matter of fact, in the 4 years I've been on County Council, I voted for every airport construction project that came before my committees or the full council. In fact, this Tuesday I voted for an airport construction project also involving the trees at the north end. Very controversial. But there's some things we can do at the airport to improve the deadlock we have right now. In fact, there's a plan I've been working on for the last week. It will probably be released tonight or tomorrow morning. It's a way to get a compromise to move forward on some of the tree work that's needed. For the longer term, extension of the runway is going to need some much more detailed study than we've had in the master plan. What I'd like to see is answers to a few of those questions, and if we do want regional jet service, I think we need a referendum from the people. I don't think the 11 of us on County Council or the 7 on Town Council should act as dictators and make that decision. I'd like to see a local referendum since it has such a tremendous impact, positive or negative.
I understand. How do you feel about redevelopment in the land management ordinance?
I think there are things that we need to do here, and it's wise to look at the LMO and see where it could be improved. In my work in the county, we've actually looked at form-based codes as a replacement for LMO-type ordinances, and we've applied the first one in Defusky Island after a lot of study. But in addition to work on the LMO, I think there's some small areas of fine-tuning that we ought to do simultaneously, because LMO changes may take 2 or 3 years. And there's some things I think we can improve on in a matter of 6 to 12 months. And we need to focus on both of those at the same time, short-term and long-term.
Great. Now, the role of the town, how much of a role the town needs to play in some private ventures has also been in the news a lot lately. One of those is the Harbortown Yacht Basin. What do you think the role should be of the town? How much of a role should they play in the dredging?
Excellent. As an engineer and planner, I like to see an analysis. I like to see data before we spend any town money or even contemplate spending any town money. To date, I don't think we have an independent engineering analysis of that particular project. And the first thing I would do is get such an analysis with the town and the beneficiaries, perhaps splitting the cost of that. I know the town has money already allocated for it. It's imperative that that be an independent engineering analysis, not run by the beneficiaries themselves. When we get that data, we'll see what's needed, how much it'll cost, what the options are, where the dredge spoil might go under various options, and what it would cost. I'm a firm believer that is a private enterprise at Harbortown, and despite the fact it's iconic, I don't see taxpayer money going into it. If they want to do the work, well, first of all, we have to see the costs. If they want to do the work, they need to pay for it themselves or look at other options.
Mm-hmm. And another venture that's out there that's causing lots of news and headlines is the Heritage Golf Tournament. And I think pretty much everyone agrees that the heritage is important to the town of Hilton Head. But what do you think town officials can do to help ensure its future here on the island?
Another excellent question. Last spring and summer, I did an extensive analysis of the heritage because they were coming to County Council and asking for $1 million of funding, temporary funding, as they did with the town. I did an extensive analysis of that, actually looking into the books of the Heritage, looking into their tax returns, reading the Clemson study cover to cover, not just the executive summary, and spending some time with Ed Duwaszewski, who's their CFO, a very fine fellow. And there's a lot that can be done for the Heritage. I think the first thing that has to happen is both the town and the county councils have to get together and issue a document or resolution that appeals to the PGA Tour so that we can, instead of one $7 million sponsor guaranteed for 4 years, be able to break that up into 5 or perhaps 6 $1 million sponsors. And of course, one of those, or perhaps 2 of those sponsors, ought to be the state, the city, the town, and the county. But there are other potential $1 million sponsors we might have. The hotels, there might be an insurance company I've heard in the wings. Breaking it down into smaller chunks, I think, is essential. In addition, they have to look at their internal cost structure. There's places they can save money, and I saw that in the books. They also need to raise their ticket prices. About 2/3 of those tickets are given away right now under various other kind of packages and options. Their average cost or revenue per ticket is too low. They ought to look at some of their charitable list also. When I went through their federal tax return, one of the charities was the Hilton Head Chamber of Commerce. Another was the PGA Wives Tour. It's questionable whether charitable money ought to go to those ventures as opposed to a real needy charity. So there's a lot can be done chipping away at the Heritage problem, but I think we have to look under every stone. We don't want to lose it.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you taking time out to speak with me today. We'll be back after the break with the Heritage's Assistant Tournament Director, Morgan Hyde.